Hey up everyone, and welcome back to another video. And in this video I wanted to talk a little bit about being bullied for being good at art. Jealousy really is a thing, it seems, and I recently ended up in a discussion with a few other artist friends about this. Turns out a few of them have experienced a few bits of bullying for being good at art as well, but I've had a few interesting experiences, so I thought I'd just talk about it in this video. In the meantime, you'll see me doing this acrylic painting of a border collie called Dare, and all the supplies that I've used for this painting will be listed in description as per usual. And Dare is an agility dog, and his owners had me paint several other previous dogs as well, so he's going to be part of a collection. I did actually paint this one last summer, but obviously it's not been made into a video until now, so anyway, back to the bullying subject. In UK we have primary school and secondary school, and primary school you attend up to the age of 11, and then you go to secondary school up to the age of 16. And now you have to stay until you're 18, but when I was a kid you left at 16 and then you had the chance to go on to further education after that voluntarily. But anyway, it weren't primary school that I got bullied in really, it was secondary school that I got most of my bullying, and it were the last couple of years mostly as well. Obviously people used to bully me a lot for other things anyway, so the fact that I were good at art and probably the best in our year, and by the time we got to it last year I was probably best in school, they really just couldn't handle the fact that I were better at art than anybody else. They just wanted me to be rubbish at everything basically. I was just quite a plain Jane, not very cool kind of person, so I weren't allowed to be good at art basically, in the mind of these people. But the worst offenders were them that were also good at art, and they absolutely hated me, and the fact that I were better at art than them really sort of got under the skin. And in particular a couple of lads. And I remember one piece of work that actually got ripped up of mine, and the lad that did it, he was in the other art group to me, so we had two art teachers and each teacher had two groups, and we obviously were in there at different times, so he had the same teacher but he was in the other group, so obviously I didn't see what was going on in their class. And up until a few years ago I weren't 100% certain that it were this particular lad that done it. I just found the drawing one day in drawer. We had these big drawers outside the classroom and everyone just put the work into them, and when I went to get mine out it were in 5 pieces. And like I say, I always suspected who it were, but I didn't get it confirmed until a couple of years ago when another pupil that were there who witnessed it and challenged him about it did admit to me that she'd seen it at the time, and when I said his name, says, "Well, it's such and such." She was like, yeah. So I says, well, I always suspected, but now it's been confirmed. And I had another piece of work where, it were a big art folder that were made out of cardboard, and they were quite common. They were often given to us by school, and I drew a lot of little doodles and drawings and things like that on mine, like everybody else did. You just sort of decorated it in your own artwork. And one of the things I drew on it were a dog's skull in black ink. And one day I found a load of pink paint had been slapped over this skull drawing, but they'd used a really transparent pigment paint, so it didn't cover the actual skull at all. It just made it look a little bit more funky. Because it had just got no opacity to it, so it didn't have any coverage, so it just made it look a little bit more fancy, maybe like a pink wash over it, so to speak. And then I had other pieces of work that were put on the wall for display in classroom, and they had things stuck to them and that sort of thing, got drawn on, you name it. And I always knew it was the same people that were doing this. And the art teacher had to start putting my artwork under lock and key in her storeroom so that these people couldn't get to it. And then at the end, when we do his exams, what we had to do is we had to get all his work that we wanted to put on display and his exam works and what have you, and we had to put them on display in the corridors for the examiners to be able to view. And when I put mine up, they had to get me to put mine up directly across from the staff room, and that way the teachers could keep an eye on it and they were less likely to have anything happen to it, because you know there were going to be likely eyes on it most of the time with it being directly across from the staff room. So yeah, there were some kids that were pretty determined to try and put my candle out on that one, I'm afraid. And another thing were like, I used to get a lot of stick for getting a good grade, say if we'd done as mock exams or fourth year exams, and they were reading as grades out what we'd got, and I used to get stick for like getting a grade A or whatever, and they'd start having a go at me, and you know, for daring to, you know, get a good grade. And that were more likely to be lasses that did that than lads. They were more likely to just destroy my artwork. Fortunately, they never managed to get their hands on a piece of work that really meant a lot to me. It was mostly just stuff that it was school as teachers that had got us to do it, things like still lives and, you know, projects that they got us to do. So you just did it, but your art weren't really in it. So even though it still bothered me slightly that they wanted to destroy my stuff all the time, luckily they never managed to get their hands on a piece of work that actually meant a lot to me. So anyway, after all that, I'm still here decades later doing my art and doing it for a living now as well. And I don't think any of them ever bothered to continue art after school, so it all ended up being pretty pointless in end. So if any younger people come and see this video and they're being bullied at school and being given a hard time for being good at art, just know that it's not going to last forever. And they can't make you rubbish at art, and they can't make themselves better than you by bullying you. So just continue doing what you're doing. And then when you leave school, they'll probably just stop doing it anyway, and you can just continue doing it. Because if you've got that drive to just continue doing it forever, then there's naught that they can do to get rid of that. And same applies to anything else that you might be particularly gifted at, pretty much anything. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video on my little stories from it past. We're coming to end of day now, so it's time to bring it to a close. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!